Ladies and gentlemen, hailing from Cleveland, Ohio, I give you BVO.
Oh, we boxing? Yeah, we boxing. I need that belt like it ain't no other option. So we punching and weeping and blocking, defeat ain't an option. Let them know, shoot a video, put it on BVO. Let them know, every time I punch, it's a heavy blow. BVO, bound to hit like bricks cause it was set in stone. Let them know, I ain't getting body, but I'ma hit this flow. Yeah, way more than a show, this is BVO.
Hey, man, what's going on, Sports Talk Network family? Man, I ain't even see y'all sitting there. Hey, I was just talking to my boys. Y'all know Sports Talk Network put together 3 ways that you can interact with this football season even more. Yeah, they got the last man standing pool. Everybody that joins, they pick a team each week. If that team wins, you move to the next week. That team lose, you're simply out. But you only can pick that team one time, so you got to choose your team wisely. At the end of the season, there's a grand prize for the last man standing. The second way, they got the NFL Pick'em. Yeah, they give you 5 teams that you can pick. Every week, at the end of the season, they're going to add up your wins and losses. There will be a first place winner, a second place winner, and a third place winner. All cash prize. And the last way, NFL fantasy football. Everybody believe they can run a team. I hear people talking all day long. Hey, man, my team should have picked this player up. My team should have picked that player up. Well, this is your opportunity to show us that you know how to run a team. You'll get an NFL fantasy draft. You'll get the chance to pick the players you want on your team. Then you play in the season. At the end of the year, the best teams will battle it out to go to the Super Bowl. 2 teams in the Super Bowl play for first place. Team that lose gets second place. The 2 teams that lost in the semifinals battle out for third place. There will be a cash prize for first, second, and third place. Yeah, so how you join? Man, I'm glad you asked. It's easy. All you do is cash out $50, Sports Talk Network. Let us know what league you want to be in. Leave your name and your email address so we can get back in contact with you when it's time to set up the games. If you want all 3, cash app $150 to Sports Talk Network. Leave your name, email address, and simply say all 3. If you want to only be in 2, cash app $100 to Sports Talk Network. Let us know what 2 leagues you want to be in. Leave your name and email address so we can get back in contact with you. I believe everybody can win, but you can't win if you don't get in. So I'm going to be watching Sports Talk Network, greatest network on YouTube. Peace.
What's up?
Yo, what's going on, family, man? My brother BVO, his mic messing up right now. We can barely hear you, brother. Shout out to Uncle Stitch in the building. We got the legend.
Yeah, my man, I'm in the building. How you doing?
I can't complain. What about you?
Hey, man, I just been having a crazy life, man. And yeah, it's good to share it with you. Good having me on, man. Thanks.
Hey, we always want to hear what you got going on, man. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, I got stories like nobody else, man.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Real quick, BVO mic check.
Yo, can you hear me now?
You good?
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Okay, you went back out.
Do another mic check, BVO. All right, I'm gonna hit him behind him.
Kinda. You going in and out.
Yeah.
Well, one horse don't stop this race, so
that's right.
We gonna get to this. First things first, man. As always, a pleasure to have you on. And want to talk a little boxing with you to start the show. Man, we had some good fights this past weekend. I mean, a tremendous card, the all women's card that was put on by MVP. Then we had another tremendous card that was put on by Turkey. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I want to start with the all women's card. What was your favorite fight on that card?
Hey, man, I'll tell you what, I didn't see none of the fights Friday or Saturday. Because I had my own thing that I was doing, which was a little bit more important, right? I'll tell you about it as we go down the road. But my buddy Mike Basil worked with Amanda Serrano, and I saw some of the highlights that they did. But yeah, props to them. Berlanga, that's why guys that talk a lot of shit, somehow they ended up, looking like fools at the end of their careers, and this was a good example, and so maybe made him a little bit more humble. But no, I haven't seen none of the fights.
No, I ain't mad at that. I ain't mad at that. Well, real quick, I want to ask this, and this just came up. So even without you seeing the fight, kind of go down your line of work. I hear a lot of people recently after the knockout that Hamza Shiraz had against Berlanga, they bringing up the hand wraps, right?
Right.
I don't know that. Some say he was stacking, some say he was cheating. I don't know nothing about it. Is there a way you can cheat with hand wraps?
Well, I do know about it.
Okay, go ahead.
So let's put it on the table, man. I know it because when Triple G fought Canelo the first time, right? Tom Loeffler, that managed Triple G and is a friend of mine because I work with the Klitschko's. We're all part of the same group. He called me and says, "Hey man, what do you think about stacking?" And I said, "I think it's bullshit." I said, the reason you wrap the fighters' hands is they don't break them. As long as you have the same amount of gauze, same amount of tape, the rules require 1 inch away from the knuckles down tape. As long as you don't, pass that, what's the difference? Everybody, you put your shoes on different than somebody else, right? So anyway, the head commissioner here in Nevada called me and asked me the same question. I said the same thing. So I met him at one of the gyms, and I wrapped his hands conventional the way the norm does, and I wrapped the other one stacking gauze and tape, following the same rules, 1 inch away from the knuckles and all that. And he didn't feel that much of a difference. I said, "There's not. Same amount of gauze, same amount of tape. It's actually dumb." So he brought a hand specialist with him, and I did the same thing. I wrapped one stacking and one conventional, and he didn't feel that much of a difference. So, that being said, now they allow stacking here in Nevada. But yeah, you know what? And I didn't know what was happening, but that's a good question. I'm glad you brought it up. But no, it's all about education, bro. As long as you only have gauze right here, for the punching, nothing else. However, because here's the number one injury, the metacarpals. So if you don't protect those, by some guys stack out. I've done it and I've used it, but I have my technique that 9 out of 10 prefer. So
yeah. His left hand did look a little sus, but I believe what you're saying.
Yeah,
he couldn't hold
funny.
a cup, Uncle Stitch. He couldn't hold a cup, man.
What's that?
He couldn't hold a cup, man. It was so much tape on his hand, man.
Well, you know what, and like I said, I didn't see the fight and all that, but in the same token, I always tell people that too much gauze and tape is as bad as not enough. There has to be a happy medium there, and sometimes guys will overdo it, big old paddings, and and just so many different techniques because there's not really one super guideline that guides us all. I learned through my own experiences, wrapping my own hands. And now that I got the formula that I use, I don't mind sharing it.
Cool.
My question would be, because I know you used to train, have you ever been like in a fight with a guy and maybe the trainer say, what you seeing out there? You ever have somebody do that to you, say, what are you seeing? Or you just be totally focused on the medical side?
It's funny. My son came down because we went back home. I'll tell you about the documentary that I shared with my friends that I grew up with. But we were going to the gun range here in Vegas, and we stopped at Top Rank Gym, and one of the guys there, the coaches, I was telling my son, I said he always gives his brother. He's a good fighter. He always gives his brothers instructions, and then at the end, he'll say, "What do you think, Stitch?" And so I try to be humble, and it's not my job. But there's been others, during the course of the fight at ringside, as we're down in the bottom, we evaluate situations and go with the best probabilities.
Yeah, because when I think the main thing we all try to figure out what advantage can we find. One thing I always wanted to ask you, I never got to ask you, when we heard about Margarito having cement in his tape, was that a real thing or was that just something they made up? Did he really have like cement wraps? Is that something possible to have?
To be honest with you, man, I've been asked that question. ESPN called me when that happened, and they asked me what my thoughts were, but how it was done and what was used. Obviously, something was done, and something was probably used, right? I just don't know what it is. But if it was some kind of texture that would kind of get hard as it got a little moist, then I there's products out there that can do that. You see what I'm saying? And but I don't know. But when ESPN called me, and that's a good question. When they called me, they wanted to do an interview and said, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "Well, look, like I explained to you, I don't know, but let me tell you the proper procedure." So the proper procedure is I'm getting ready for a fighter to get fighters. I'm getting my stuff ready so I can wrap the fighter's hands championship for sure. But everything's already laid out when he comes and he sits down and he puts his hand on the table. I have everything laid out. Well, what happened with Capetillo, which was the coach at that time, he reached into his bag and he pulled out the padding, which you do that nowadays, you just can't do it. But evidently, why he wanted to use that padding, I don't know. But I think that's the situation that happened there.
And in the Margarito situation, what they said he was doing, they said he was soaking the wraps in water before he would wrap the hand, and then when it would kind of harden up, I guess
It'll make
that's
like
what
a plaster, Dub.
right.
Yeah, I would have said that if he was going to put any kind, let's say go to the restroom and get water on your hand and just kind of dab, and do that slowly but surely. The time if he was going to do it would have been after he had his hands wrapped and after the commissioner signs it off, and if they distract the commissioner, you could well, all that is crazy. It just that's the thing with this game is none of us have to be certified to be called pros. So we go and we think that this option is the best option, whether it's legal or not, or whether it's dangerous for the fighter or not. So that's why I always try to teach, brother, because there's so many of them like that. So many.
Mm.
Boxing the wild, wild west, man. With all the sports out there, there's usually rules that apply across the sport. Whereas with boxing, it depends on which state you're in, and
Yeah.
things just get a little different there. So I definitely understand it. I heard earlier you brought up the documentary that you shared with your friends this past weekend, I believe you said. Can you break that down a little more for us?
Yeah, man, it was kind of crazy. So they finished this documentary on me. It's called "From the Fields to the Garden" because I grew up as a farm worker. Those were the fields. I was born in a migrant camp, raised in a migrant camp, and so it's called "From the Fields to the Garden," and the garden was. And it was my goal to make it to Madison Square Garden. So anyway, the producers, for the most part, have finished the solid story of it, and with all the stuff that's happening with regarding immigration and ICE and all that, those are the people that I grew up with. Those are the people that I was in the fields picking tomatoes and peaches and cotton with, right? So I know that they're good people, and so for me to support them, I went back and I invited like 150 of my friends. Well, number ones, the primary ones were the ones that the families that grew up in the migrant camp with me, and then the ones that I grew up with in Planada. And Planada was a little town of like 1,500 people, all farm workers. So we did a special screening, a private screening, because it's not even. I mean, production don't do that. They don't let nobody see it unless it's done. But I said, no, I got to show it to my people, and we stayed at the El Capitan Hotel, which is an old historical hotel on Main in Merced. Merced was like 20,000 when I lived in Planada, which was 1,500. But now it's like 40 grand. But we were right on the main street, the hotel, and we did a 7-minute walk to the theater on Main Street with mariachi playing. So we all walked over there together, kind of tribute to Cesar Chavez when he did the historical walk from Delano to Sacramento for the farm workers, kind of like the walk of what Martin Luther King did in Selma. So it was
Yeah.
badass, man, and the news picked it up and all that, and so yeah, it was very inspiring. Everybody that I showed it to it brought back so many memories because I told them my stories were all your stories, and just to give back to them was uh, made my whole life complete.
And
When
speaking of that, hold on one
okay.
second, Dub. Speaking of that, Uncle Stitch gave us some exclusive footage. We're gonna show
Yeah.
you a couple of clips from what happened. And He always spoils us, man. So nothing more we can say but thanks. So we're about to play it right now. This is the one when the news covered it, and then we're gonna play his friends who got to see the one of the final copies of the documentary. Okay, we're gonna
And
go
this
ahead
is
right now.
this is an exclusive, right? You're the first one to show it.
Yeah,
Yeah. My man.
yeah.
All
My
right,
man
go
Uncle
for it.
Stitch. Here we go.
In the North Valley, it was a welcome home for a legendary cutman. Jacob Duran held a gathering for family and friends at the El Capitan Hotel in Merced. Now, Duran earned the nickname Stitch in the movie Rocky Balboa. He's a Planada native who's been inducted into the National Boxing Hall of Fame.
Been in 7 movies, 3 with Michael B. Jordan, 3 with Rocky. You know, who does that, right? But I'm always that little Chicano kid from Planada, and I always look back and I'm thinking, wow, man, why me?
In a tribute to Cesar Chavez, Duran's party walked to the Merced Theater, where they watched a rough cut of the movie on his life called Stitch. Duran says he's working with Michael B. Jordan now to get the film on Amazon Prime. There's already a book on his life called From the Fields to the Garden, an ode to his time working in the fields of Planada before making it to Madison Square Garden.
And now we got a clip coming up where some of Stitch's, Uncle Stitch's closest friends got to see a copy of the documentary. Here we go.
Big, MMA fan, boxing fan.
As soon as they see him, I say, oh yeah, I know him. Boxing in those days in the Bay Area was in the bars.
The Dana White thing kind of shocked me a little bit.
He stays very grounded where he comes from.
Very emotional ride. Memory lane for sure.
The journey and what it means to him, and man, it was a lot, man. It was beautiful.
Well, I'm from Planada. I'm from the hometown. My grandma was actually featured in the film, and I mean, he's an amazing man. It inspires you, greatly inspires you. I mean, especially I'm just got done battling cancer. I mean, it makes me even rise up above it. You can defeat all your challenges. Like you said, si se puede. You put your mind to it, you can do it.
Very touchy. And it makes who he is a lot deeper. Because you don't always get to see that side of somebody. And that's what touched me.
You gotta go see it, and you gotta live by the word, man. And just, fight for people. That's what we're here for. For the underdogs, and that's what Jacob instilled in a lot of people and in his life. So
proud of being Hispanic.
So as we hold on one second, we got some background. So as we just seen, I can't wait to see it. And you're talking about working with Michael B. Jordan. How does it feel to have probably one of the biggest leading men in the world say, hey, I want to push your story to the top? What's that feel like, huh?
It's phenomenal. Michael gave these guys about 30-minute interview, and there's some great parts in there, man. I've done all 3 movies, right? So, and let me go into in the second one. I'm right, and 6 weeks, 8 weeks, we were filming. Every day, every time he did fight scenes, I would wrap his hands, just him and I. So I treated him like a fighter. He appreciated that. He wanted that, right? But in the second movie, I said, Michael, I'm just so proud of you, man. I said, I'm proud of you and Tessa and Ryan Coogler and the new director was Stephen Cappell. And he said, Stitch, he goes, we went from being actors to writers, directors, and producers, or writers, producers, and directors. He goes, I'm directing Creed 3, and you're with me as long as you want. So yeah, that's the kind of love it gives me, man. And so it's an honor. It's a mind-blowing honor. But this is one way of me giving back to the people that I grew up with and just inspired everybody.
Yeah, and one thing I always wondered, man, they always talk about Schindler's List. People don't know about that, but that's one of the guys who was saving people during Nazi Germany. Do you ever have survivor syndrome? Man, I'm the one that really, really made it. You ever feel like that sometime or no?
Oh man, yeah, I look back and I say, why me? And but I come well, shit. I think when we were doing the first Creed movie,
Hmm.
we're on break and Sylvester Stallone and me, we're talking and I tell him, I say, hey man, I can't sleep at night. He said, what is it? And, man, I'm here with you and Michael and Ryan Coogler and Tessa and for 6 weeks, And man, I remember he put his on, he goes, hey man, you're here because you earned it. And I thought, wow, I coming from him, that's highly respected because I show you the respect in the Creed movies, my name was Marcel. I said, man, I don't know anybody named Marcel, shoot. But when it was time for Rocky to introduce us to Adonis,
Hmm.
Stallone says, "Oh, this is Stitch, the best club man in Philadelphia." Oh, I was so happy, man. It stayed. I thanked him, and he says, "No." He goes, "It has to be authentic." So props to him. Props to both of them. I mean, who's been blessed? I ask people, "Who do you know have done 3 movies with Rocky? Who do you know have done 3 movies with Michael B. Jordan?" Boop, I have.
speaking
Yeah.
speaking of that, let me ask you this, and this is just something that you've got to see. One thing I was watching Michael B. Jordan's his newest movie, Sinners. It's been a complete physical transformation. How does it feel? Because he looks totally different than when we first see him on Creed. He must be really living that boxer lifestyle. Does that shock you how much he's transformed?
No, no, you know what? And I'm looking at him, and he looked fit.
Yeah.
And Michael's an athlete by all means, and he has lived the life of a fighter, literally, continuously, and he's gotten hit in sparring, and I mean he's done everything that a fighter has to do, and so he understands it mentally and physically. So yeah, it's a trip, man. Seeing Michael do what he does, and in this last movie, Creed 3, that he directed,
Hmm.
fight scenes were the best scenes I've ever seen. And I told him, I
Yeah.
said, Michael, I don't bullshit you, And I tell him and Ryan Coogler, I said, hey, look, man, if I see something that's not right, I'm gonna bring it up to your attention because you're representing my sport. And he said, hey man, we want you to, So, you know, so yeah, I kind of put him in check sometimes.
And speaking of that, I gotta ask you this. The great Eddie Reynoso has been getting drugged through the coals. What do you think about Eddie Reynoso having to come out and say, for now on, he's not training anybody that he can't supervise? Do you blame a trainer when guys pop dirty? What do you say, huh?
Man, thank God I never get into that kind of business. I got a lot of problems, and theirs ain't mine at all. So, I stay out of that stuff, But I know Eddie, and also as a man, and to me, listen, you're a good man. To me, you're a good man. What happens outside of the way, if you treat me good, I treat you good. And we're in that position. As a matter of fact, let me add to that is Canelo uses my tape. I have my own Stitch Premium athletic tape, right?
Yeah.
So through a dream, I woke up and because I was always traveling, and if you would order, I'd get to you late. So
Hmm.
Juan Ramirez out of San Diego just opened up Cutman for Hire Supplies. So
Hmm.
through a dream, I swear, man, I woke up, I called him, I said, hey, would you be interested in selling my tape? I'll help you through your promos that just started. And so anyway, Eddie Reynoso and Canelo's team buy the Stitch Premium tape from Juan. But I told Eddie Reynoso before that the same story I told you is through a dream. I woke up that I was going to help Juan get his business going, and he's the only one that sells my tape, only one, and that's by choice, right? But Eddie Reynoso did that, and they use it with Canelo, and Canelo uses it for his promos and all that. And I went into his dressing room when he was fighting one of the fights, and I thanked him. He said, "For what?" I said, "Well, for helping." He's going, "Oh man, we gotta help each other." That was his thing. Raza with raza, race with race. So yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of that, man, you should hear him, Monk. They try to call me sombrero, Bernando, all these crazy names because
Nothing
I
wrong with
like
that, man.
because I like the Mexican style of boxing. What style do you prefer? Do you prefer like the come forward style? Do you prefer the run around the ring like we playing ring around the rosy? What's the style do you prefer?
I work with a lot of fighters. You mentioned earlier I was a trainer. When I first moved to Las Vegas, I've been here like 30 years. But I worked with Johnny Tapia and I worked with Mike the Body Snatcher McCallum, who just passed away recently. A good friend of mine. But I tell people on natural instincts, Johnny Tapia was the best of the best because he would find his own openings. And he was like a little, like well, the ones that go after a mongoose, after a cobra, Johnny would just go different areas. Mike McCallum, on the same token, would set up techniques 2 or 3 shots in advance, and so there was those two type of. I got to see them at their highest, so they're the ones that are top of my list.
I would agree with that because for me, Julio Cesar Chavez don't get enough credit for how great he was.
Yeah.
Hold on, BVO, you're cutting out again. You're cutting out, brother.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Hold on 1 second. Sorry, I'm trying to get. Go ahead, Dom. Let me fix my headphone. My head.
Yeah, it sounds like a BVO falling off a cliff. Uncle Stitch,
That's
let me
crazy.
come in here. This is B3. I met you I was able to speak to you in Norfolk when Abdullah Mason had kind of took over the main event. Now, let me ask you, when you saw Jeremiah Nakatili, I believe he got cut on his eye and they stopped the fight. Did you see his eye and did you see who made the call to kind of stop the fight?
What fight was that? And
That
what?
was the Abdullah Mason in Norfolk, Virginia. It was
But
like
was that Filipino kid?
no, he was fighting Jeremiah Nakatili. You remember Keyshawn Davis? He was supposed to be the main event, and he fell out, and
Yes, yes, yes.
they slid Abdullah up. I believe you were working that night because I met
Oh
you.
yeah, no. I always work with Abdullah and all that, but I do so many fights, and I'm going from one fight to the other that a lot of them I don't get a chance to see. So I can't tell
But
you
this
about the
was a
cut.
short one. You probably forgot about this one altogether. It was so short. It lasted 4 rounds, and then I'm not sure if the ringside doctor, must have called the fight. Yeah, it ended real quick.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so you was definitely there. You was probably I'm sure you was
Oh
working
yeah.
with Abdullah.
No, you know what's cool is the top ranked fights that they have. They bring me and Mike Basil in as a house cutman.
Mhm.
So I mean, I think that night I worked with 4 or 5 fights that night with different fighters. But Mason Abdullah, great kid, man. I always got him, and so yeah. But shoot, too many fights, brother. I mean,
So,
yeah. I mean, literally, when I finish one fight, I got to go and make sure I have enough ice, and I got to make sure that I'm set for the next fight. And there might be 2, 3 fights, one after the other, and then
now,
wrapping land. So yeah, man, it's pretty theatrical.
Uncle Sid, let me ask you this: how many years you been working with Top Rank?
This is a good story, man. When the bare knuckle fights, Dave Feldman started. He called me to work with him, and I started working the bare knuckle fights in Florida. And then COVID kicked in, and then we were on break. But I live here in Las Vegas. I live 20 minutes from the MGM. But Brad Jacobs, the CEO of Top Rank, called, and he says, "Hey, would you be interested in being one of the house cut men? We're going to have 16 shows, 16 fights, 16 shows in 8 weeks at the MGM on lockdown." And shoot, why not? Two shows a week, and they were on ESPN, and so me and Mike Basil did it. And when COVID finished, they liked the program so much that they kept us. So basically, it's the program that I set up with the UFC that now everybody in MMA uses, and that's being available to wrap a fighter's hands or to work their corner. So we offer them that, and you guys find out that Top Rank pays us, and they all want us to wrap them and work their corners, but that's what we do.
Yeah, because I tell you this, you saved Andre. What's my man? Is Andre Ward? You saved Andre Ward's life, man, when he got cut. So I could just imagine having you on the corner, man, because that's got to give any fighter a sense of okay if I get cut, because we see some minor cuts and it take guys right out the fight. But go ahead, Doug. Go ahead, Doug.
Let me add with Andre Ward. It was cool because his quote was, "I when I got cut, I kind of said, oh no,' but then I thought, oh, I got Stitch in my corner." So that's a nice compliment.
Speaking of that, Uncle Stitch, I'm gonna show you the picture that B3 was talking. I don't know if you can see the screen. He did meet you, even though you look like, man, who is this guy with next to me? But you were gracious enough to take a picture with him, man. So we appreciate that.
My
But go
man.
ahead, Doug.
Now, I want to know. So, with you being there, and we've seen a lot of fights get stopped because of cuts, those type of things. What type of conversation do you go through with the doctor as far as understanding? I understand. I would figure it would be, can he see? That I think that would be the main thing. But what do you really go through with the doctors to say? Should the fight be stopped? Should it keep going? You know, are we protecting the fighter? Those type of things. What's
Good
the
question.
conversation like?
Yeah, the key word is when, or sentence is when a fighter is at a disadvantage, and that's a good question. And and those are nice educational questions where not only trainers and fighters could know, but he's also the fans. But when a doctor stops a fight, it's because blood is getting into the eyes. The double vision. If it's swollen to the point where he can't see the punches coming, those are at a disadvantage. And then, it also depends on who the cut man is. Doctors that establish, because they know me, they'll give me that opportunity. But in the same token, I know enough to let them know whether it's good or bad. And Vladimir Klitschko, he's in the documentary. They interviewed him in Kiev while he's up there fighting the Russians, right? But he says, but what happened with him is the first fight I worked with him, he fought DeVero Williams, and he had just come back from losing his world title to Lehman Brewster. And the first 3 rounds, Emmanuel Stewart's working with him. Emmanuel said that Klitschko wanted me to work with him. So the first 3 rounds he won, but he didn't look all that good, right? In the fourth round, DeVero Williamson drops him. And I always look at scores. And so at that point, he's winning 3 points to 2. Well, in the fifth round, they get an unintentional headbutt, and Vladimir gets that big old cut, that same one that Badu Jack had, the same one that Tim Tszyu had, the same one that UFC Forrest Griffin had. That cut right there, that big old vein, is very, very hard to stop because the medications you use, that I use, are the adrenaline chloride 1000. And when you put it on the cut, see, when I work on a cut, I'll squeeze it and get the blood out of the little veins. Then I'll put the medicine there and it absorbs into the veins and closes it. But that vein is too big and they won't absorb the. So anyway, with Vladimir Klitschko, when the doctor came, she and I've worked with her before many times in the UFC. She said, "Well, what do you think, Stitch?" And I had told Vladimir and Vitaly, I said, "Look, you got a back cut. You're winning the fight. I'm gonna have the doctor stop the fight." And when she came, she goes, "What do you think, Stitch?" I go like this. I opened up the cut, and she stopped it and went to the scorecards, and he won, and then became world champion for 8 years, and until he lost to Anthony Joshua. But Jay Nady was a referee, and I saw him a couple of shows down the road. And he said, "Stitch, come here, man." He goes, "Did you do what I thought you did with Klitschko? Did you open up that cut in front of him?" I said, "I did." He goes, "That was ingenious." I said, "Yep, that's knowing your game." So
So there's a thought process. I never even thought about it from a cut man's perspective, but so there's actually a thought process of saying, "Hey, bro, you up on the cards right now? We can get this victory because this was an intentional, unintentional, excuse me, unintentional head clash, and because I believe you're winning, I think that we might as well go on and stop this thing."
100%. The highest probability, I work on numbers. The highest probability of him winning that fight was right then and right there. And you're talking about people listening. I did the what do they call it? Dirty Boxing. The debut in Miami, and Joel Romero, that was a UFC fighter, I worked his corner, and big old muscular heavyweight. And the first 2 rounds, it's only 3 rounds, and the first 2 rounds, I didn't think he did as well. And I whispered to him, I said, you got to get aggressive in Spanish. Más agresivo. You got to get aggressive. That's it. Popo, and he knocks the guy out. So anyway, he has a big radio podcast like you guys. And he interviewed me and he asked me, he goes, "Do you remember what you told me in the third round?" I said, "I do, get more aggressive." So see, he remembered that and he applied it because he had the confidence of my knowledge for him to take that next step.
I want to ask you. I want to let me come in real quick. I want to ask you this, Uncle Stitch. Now we know you're gonna be at the card on the 26th. A lot of us are gonna be in the building. What do you think about seeing the heir apparent to Julio Cesar Chavez, heir apparent to Oscar De La Hoya, and I think Canelo's replacement, and being able to have Emiliano Vargas? What do you think about him being the next great Mexican fighter? What do you think?
Hey, you know what? He's definitely doing what he has to do to become that good-looking kid, good kid. I worked with Fernando Vargas when he fought
Hmm.
Shane Mosley, and so and the other two brothers. It's a good family, man.
Hmm.
They're good for the legacy, And it's funny you bring that up because you're the first one to bring that up, But
Hmm.
that kid has the potential to really kind of be spoken like those names that you just mentioned.
And Uncle Stitch, listen, if you can do BVO a favor and let him be Emiliano's spit bucket man, he would greatly appreciate it. He would love to just Emiliano, maybe massage his hands and carry around a spit bucket.
Hey man, I'll see what I can do, man. All right.
Yeah, because a guy like this type of guy. You remember that old cartoon Top Cat? You got
Yeah,
to hit
yeah,
him
of
in the
course.
you got to hit him in the head with a trash barrel because he just talked too crazy, man. That's the
Ain't
type of
nothing
That's
guy
wrong with
he
that,
crazy.
is.
man.
But speaking of that, though, when you think about the fights, do you still get excited even though you're going to work? Do you still get excited for the sport after all this time you've been in it?
Yeah, 100%, man. And it's man, you guys ask good questions. That's why I like coming on over here, man. BVO's the best. But yeah, it's not the fights anymore, bro. I've done so many, so many, so many. It's the characters and what happens in the dressing room and what happens in the fight and everything with the fighters and the teams. That's the excitement right there. Yeah, to me, I always give you 150% of what I have, whether you win or lose, that's, my job is to help you as much as I can. But, if it's on the negative side, I'm still gonna, it's about them. And the stories are great, man.
Yeah,
What
because I've
what's
never I've never heard anybody. My bad, dumb. So I just got one more. And I'm gonna get out your way. And the reason I say that is because you bring such a human side to boxing that we've never seen.
Yeah.
When I look at Klitschko, I think of jab, jab, right hand, jab, jab, right hand. I never even thought about his humanity or him talking to you. I always thought about every time I seen Vladimir, he's just gonna jab you to death, then he gonna knock you out. So I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
love how you bring that whole different side and you humanize them, man, and realize that because for us, let's be honest, it's the Roman Coliseum still for us. We still want to put humans in there with bears and lions and see who comes out on top. So I really appreciate how you do that. But let me ask you this: have you ever had a guy and say, you know what, I love him too much for him to continue? Have you ever had to say something like that to a trainer?
Yeah.
He shouldn't continue.
It's yeah. The last one I did was DeVero Williamson, not DeVero Williamson, Andre Durrell.
Hmm.
I was working. He fought Jose Esquerigi. It was a rematch. And the
Yeah.
one before is when his Durrell's uncle hit Esquerigi, boom, after the decision. Anyway,
Yeah.
so in the second fight, yeah, and during that fight, I got a hold of Andre and I put him in the corner. I said, "Nah, this ain't your fight, man. Stay out of that area." So I took care of him even then, right? But
Hmm.
on this rematch, he's getting the kind of shots that I consider will give you long term damage. It kind of goes in here and just comes out here. And I'm looking at the doctors and they're talking amongst themselves and I don't know what they're saying, but I probably think I know what they're saying. So when I get to Andre, I'm inside the ring and I'm working on him and I whispered to him real quick. I said, "Look, the doctors are thinking of stopping the fight. Do you want to continue?" And he gives me a small no like this. And okay, stop the fight. And Virgil Hunter was the coach, and his grandfather were like, "No, no, one more round, one more." I said, "Nope." Once he said that, he's done, and nobody understood what was happening. Right? Oh, wow. The next day, about 8 in the morning, him and his wife called me, and Andre says, "Stitch, man, I want to thank you, man. I just had nothing with me." And the last time I saw Andre, in fact, I just talked to his uncle Leon today. But
Hmm.
last time I saw Andre at the Benavides fight, he comes and gives me a hug and a kiss and Stitch, I love you, man. Because of you, I speak as well as I do. So that's a victory in itself, brother. Yeah, yeah, I'm telling you, I swear. Those are the kind of stories that make this job not even a job; it's an adventure.
We
so
got we got we got one question from the audience. It says, "Do you have any saved robes at all, Uncle Stitch?" from guys that you like that you seen some fights you ever done? You keep any of
Yes.
the ropes?
Yes, of course I do. They're all memorable. I got the last big memorable one I have is Mike Tyson when he fought Jake Paul. And I am I like I said, I grew up as a little farm worker in a little town, and they we got a boxing program going, and I donated one of my cornerman jackets from the movie that I did with Woody Harrelson and all these guys. So yeah, I've done it sometimes, but no, I got a lot of classic ones for sure.
Go ahead, Doug. My bad.
I want to ask you. So because you get to talk to these guys, you know what I'm saying, wrapping their hands, those type of things. Do you have any stories or anything? Let me ask it this way: what's the wildest moment you've been a part of before a fight in the locker room, where you were like, okay, this is a little different right here, but hey, we gonna do our thing. What's the wildest story that you would tell us?
Well, it's a good question. I've never been asked that one, but I'm thinking, and there's not a lot of crazy stuff because at that point, the fighters are more focused on getting ready to get, like I tell them, I said, look, man, this is like the old gladiator days. When I sit down and start wrapping their hands, that's like I'm putting armor on you, boom, 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 and you go out there for battle. And I know if it was like Frank Mir when I was at the UFC, he says, when I see Stitch walking into the dressing room to wrap my hands, my stomach drops because I know it's time to fight. So those scenarios are more like that, but just to have different personality. Some guys are laughing as I'm wrapping their hands, they're joking around, they're talking to somebody, and some guys are just real solemn. And I've had guys that cried while I'm wrapping their hands. So there's different moments. Yeah, I'm telling you, and you have to understand every one of them, right?
Yeah.
And like the one that cried after I gave him a hug, I say, "Hey man, go out there." Shit, he won. So but I understand. But see, you have to understand these moments, because
Yeah.
you remember Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, the
Hmm.
legendary Hall of Famer. His best quote was, "The ultimate goal of a fighter is to render his opponent unconscious," and that's the knockout. That's what gives these guys a lot of the long term damage. You know, um, so
Let me
Yeah. I mean, go
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 ahead.
go go ahead, Doug. Go ahead.
Well, the other thing I was going to ask is because you don't work with so many of these fighters, do you have a favorite fighter?
God is yeah. You know what? The Klitschko's, both Vladimir and Vitaly Klitschko, had to fall on top of the list of people that I was with them for 8 years, and they treated me just Well, you'll see in the documentary, like say they interviewed Vladimir. He gave me his time during this war, but he says, best decision I ever made was getting Stitch in my corner, and then, but towards the end, when I'll tell you guys is the real story. So his last fight with Anthony Joshua was in Wembley Stadium. Is 90,000 crazy Brits, right? So I didn't
Hmm.
get there till Thursday night because my daughter Carla had just gotten married that Wednesday. So right
Hmm.
after that, I flew out. And I didn't see Vladimir and Vitaly until we got into the dressing room for the weigh-in. So I'm talking to him, and finally, as I leave, I know they can't sleep at night. So I put my hand on Vladimir, and I said, "Look, man, don't worry about nothing tomorrow. I'm gonna take care of you like you're my son." And I leave. I'm putting the final Vaseline on him, bro. We're about this far apart, and Mike, right before Michael Buffer does the announcements and all these crazy Brits, and he says, "You could call me son." Oh, yeah, man, that was the best compliment I ever got in my life. And I asked him, and like 3 months later, last time I ever saw him was in Germany. And I said, Vladimir, that one moment, why? He says, Stitch, he goes, there's very few people I trust in my life. You are one of them. So yeah, those are the moments, bro. It's tons of moments. It's just good people. And it breaks my heart to see them, doing, being in war. So,
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. I'm seeing what's left of Deontay Wilder. Oh man, I can't stand to watch him. So I know what you're saying because that's my favorite fighter. Look at him in there half dead like that. It's like, I hate it. But
yeah.
speaking of that, I want to. This is coming from my brother Stephen Brown. When does the opposing trainer come in to see you wrap their hands? Is there like a certain time that's done, or how does that usually work?
Yeah, they'll ask you, the commission will ask you when you're going to start rapping. And let's say, I say, "Oh, I'm going to start at 6:45." So they'll let the other corner know that at 6:45, come on down and watch us rap hands. So yeah, pretty organized.
that
But it's
that
funny,
being
man, because Andre, Andre Ward, uh,
yeah,
when he fought Kovalov,
yeah.
they always sent somebody else. But in this one, he said, "Stitch, I want you to go, to that dressing room and watch him rap." And John David Jackson's rapping hands, and I know how to rap hands. It's psychology, you make them a little nervous. So he's rapping, and Kovalov, it's too tight, and he gets it, and he just unravels it and starts doing his own reps. So I look at that as kink number one, right? And then the referee, I think it was Tony Weeks, comes in to give the instructions, and Kovalov complains about Andre Ward using the shoulder on his ribs. So
Hmm.
bing, kick number two. And then the third one is he couldn't put his gloves on. There was too much gauze and tape. So they had to go get the other gloves from the ringside. So I go
Hmm.
in and I fingered these guys. I say, hey man, boom, 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 boom. And you use that to your advantage. So that's psychology.
Speaking of that, let me ask you this, and this is no way to cast aspersions against him. What do you think about that? I guess the thought that Andre Ward was dirty. Would you say he was a dirty fighter, or you just say he was crafty?
No, man, Andre, no, not at all. Not at all. But I will tell you, he was crafty is a good word for it. When he fought Edison Miranda, Andre will go to your level. When he fought Edison Miranda got dirty with him. Andre
Hmm.
Ward got dirty with him. He went to his limits based on your limits. And respect for that, man. No, he was sharp, man. And I worked all of Andre's fights, I think, except two of them. I was already booked to do UFC fights out of the country, right? And
Hmm.
but I always expected him to lose, man. I mean, a high probability. I said, damn, but he won. But he was so well schooled, and everything that he did with timing and balance and thinking about it. Sharp kid.
Andre Ward, he a gritty fighter, man. I can't call an individual dirty, you know what I'm saying? But like like
Oh,
like
he'll
like
punch you
BVO
in the
said,
nuts, though. He'll
hey,
punch
like
you in the
Yeah.
nuts.
but like BVO said, hey, it's crafty out there. And I wanna ask this, as far as, because I know you work with the fighters, but you also have to have relationships with the different trainers out there. In your opinion, and you ain't got to finger anybody or say who the best is, but who are some of the trainers that you like working with the most?
Oh, whoa, so many guys, bro. That's like saying I like you than the other guys. Come on, I can't do that. But you know what? Now that's a good point, and I'll go into further discussion with you on that. I did an interview with former world champ Juan Manuel Marquez in Guadalajara, and it's a
Hmm.
Spanish station that he had, or podcast, whatever. But he
Hmm.
asked me a question that's never been asked, that kind of goes in relationship to yours. He goes, has a fighter or a trainer ever disrespected you? And I
Hmm.
said, no. I said, because I come in under a different condition. I come
Hmm.
here to take care of you. Why would you want to disrespect me? So nah, I'm a horse of a different color when I come into camp.
Now I gotta ask this question. My favorite fighter, Devin Haney, is gonna be fighting another one of my favorite fighters, especially if he from my state. You know what I'm saying? And Junior, I call him Junior, but Brian Norman Jr. Um, are you working that fight? Do you have anything to do with that fight?
Yeah, I worked Devin's last fight, right? And
Right.
and I worked Brian's fight when he won the world title, And so yeah, I'm sure I'll be working one of them. Maybe the probability is extremely high. And which one, it's they both got my number,
Okay.
so and that's a blessing when you could do that. But usually if I've already worked with a guy, then they got the priority. But I've worked with both of them, and
Yeah.
so we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to them. But
I
they're
don't
good,
know.
both good kids.
I don't know if you
So
can make. I don't know if you can make a prediction in the fight. I'm not sure if you
I
can
never
do
no, he
that.
do.
don't do no. He don't do predictions.
Okay.
Understand?
Okay.
Don't do no
Well,
predictions.
I had to.
he he
I
done
gotta
made it.
ask these questions, man. This is what the
He
people
done
want to
made.
Dub,
know.
you out of
He,
order. Dub,
he
you
done
out of
made.
order.
Hey, Uncle Sis done made it clear. Don't ask me about no winning.
Yeah, it's not my job, bro. And and the reason why is the reason why, because you don't know and I don't know, and I
Absolutely not.
usually I'm like 50% right or 50% wrong, and nah, I'd rather give you the probabilities of cuts or bruising. That's
Are
that's
you
more up my alley.
are you excited for that fight as we are? Because
with
these are
David,
two.
with Brian Devin.
Absolutely, because these are two young guys nearing their primes. I don't think neither one is technically in their prime yet, but actually, and we've seen for a long time in the sport, well, recently at least, that guys have waited to build the fight, and they end up fighting when the build up done been 6 years. I don't want to call no fights out, no names, nothing like that. But
Errol
with these two
Spence,
young,
Bud
with
Crawford.
these two young guys, with these two young guys getting into the ring at such a young age against each other, are you as excited? And do you? I think that this is what the sport of boxing is about. I think they're bringing back that actual grit in the sport. Would you agree with me saying that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't get excited as you because I do them all, right?
Right.
And
Agreed. Agreed.
there's a certain pace of control that I have to keep, instead of going up and down with the adrenaline. But no, when it comes to battles and good skill levels, yes, Devin Haney and Brian Norman it's a good match. And if you ask me the type of fight, I think it's going to be, that's the type of fight that goes a distance. Whether they need a cut man, I think they both do. So those are my opinions. So the cut man should work on their fighter every round. It's gonna
And,
be
and,
that.
and, and speaking of that, I just hope on the 26th, man, that the King of New York, Emiliano Vargas, puts on a show. And I'm gonna pass it over to D Free. He's a Puerto Rican, so I know he got some good questions for us. Go ahead, Puerto Rican Free.
Nah, I just actually only got one question because these guys been asking some good questions. But being though the amount of years you've been into the sport, you done seen a lot. You done been in there with a lot of fighters. Go ahead and hang it up.
No,
I just
your mic
lost
out
you
of
in the
order,
last.
man. Your mic out of order, Free. It's out of
I
order.
lost you.
He fell down the steps, Uncle Stitch. 1 second. He fell down the steps.
Hold on. Ask it one more time, Free. Well, first off,
Yeah, go ahead, shoot.
Mic check first, and then ask it again. If you're talking,
can y'all hear me now?
We can hear you now. You good? Yo, you crispy.
All right. Now, what I was saying is, being though that you've been in the sport for a long time and you've been around a lot of fighters and you've seen a lot of things, is there any time in the near future you say, you know what, it's time for me to hang it up?
Yeah, well, I'm 73. Good question. I'm 73 years old. I been a lot. I'm doing a lot of things. I'll probably be working. I don't know. I mean, it's just with Top Rank. I love doing these type of fights. As long as I can go up and down, my mechanics and are good, I'll continue doing these little fights. And if not, do seminars and all that. But there's after this documentary here about 25 years ago. I think I mentioned this to you guys before. This film that I did, documentary called Boxer's Nightmare. Never did nothing with it, and the young man that helped me passed away, and I saw it, and everybody that I have, they're all legends, and they have answers for everything that's going wrong in boxing. And I look at it now, it's still happening now, and it's also happening with MMA. So I want to reopen this film and bring it out and get current interviews. I'm also working with this company that created a cream for the healing process of cuts. It's Stitch Cream and the Cut Cream. We're going to resurrect that one again. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'll do as many fights as I can. Like I say, it's not even a job. It's an adventure, bro. So yeah, we'll see. As long as my body holds up and my mind, and of course, I'll work them. I love it.
Hey, Uncle Stitch, don't stop getting that. Don't stop getting that money, man. That's what I was saying.
Hey, no, you know what? Hey, no. Listen. I've been blessed. Shoot, I've done these 7 movies, and I got a pension from SAG. Shoot, I didn't even know that. So I'm okay, man. Yeah, I mean, that's the farthest thing from being an actor, and they send me a congratulations. You got this much coming this 1 month, and this much every month, and yeah. So I'm an actor.
It's funny you say that. I'm gonna tell you why I said what I said, Uncle Stitch. My grandfather worked at Goodyear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said they took my best years from me, so I'm gonna give them some of my bad ones. And they had to drag their brother out that plant.
Yeah.
That's why I say get the money as much as you can. But we got one question from a '70s expert in boxing, my brother Bruce Gas. He's always with you remember Terrible Tim Witherspoon? Him
Sure.
him and Terrible Tim have a great podcast. He said, who is the worst bleeder you've seen? Who just bled like a pig? I don't know if you ever did any Brandon Rios because he would bleed like a pig. Who did you ever have?
No,
But you
no,
said
hey man, in the old days, it's Arturo Gatti. You know, I worked with Rocky Gannon. Rocky Gannon, I used to say would if I would punch him or punch him with the left shoulder, he would bleed on the right eyebrow. You know, and he was, and if you remember Miguel Diaz, the old legendary cut man, he said, "Man, you're," because I worked with Raul Marquez at that time, and Raul Marquez makes a statement in this documentary because when he fought Keith Mullins to defend his IBF title, he got cut 5 places, one or two here and then here, and he talked about it. But he was a bleeder, so Miguel Diaz says, "Hey man, you're lucky you get all the bleeders. You got Miguel Diaz and Rocky Gannon, you know."
Hey, make
So
your job a little harder though. It make it just a tad bit.
yeah,
But
yeah, hey man, it's all right. If you can't handle it, get out of the kitchen, man.
amen. As well, when breaking down, who are some of your inspirations as far because I figure you probably know more cut men than I ever think of. Do you have any inspirations as far as other men that
I
you
lost him.
watched
I
and kind
lost
of
the
learned
last
from?
half.
hey Dub,
Oh, my bad. I
your
said, do
mic
you
went
have?
out of order.
I lost the
Start
I'm
from
last
the
half.
back. Am I
beginning.
back in order?
Yeah,
Am
start
I back
from
in
the
order?
beginning. Yeah, start back from the
No, no.
beginning.
So, with you being one of the greatest cut men, if not the greatest cut man of all time, did you have any inspiration? And who are some of the individuals that you learned from as far as how you take care of these cuts and those type of things?
That's a good question, man. In the old days, these guys wouldn't want to teach you. I had a school of kickboxing. It was called ASK, the American School of Kickboxing. That's how I learned to be a trainer and a cut man. But I was making the transition from a trainer to a cut man. And I'll never forget Marvis Frazier, the son of Joe Frazier, and Bone Crusher Smith fought in Richmond, California. And I went to the fights, and this guy did a good job on cuts. And I went over there and said, "Hey, man, I'm trying to learn to be a cut man. Can you tell me what you did?" He says, fuck you. He goes, "I'm taking this to my grave and you got to learn like me." And he walked away. No, I'm serious. I felt about this big, bro. I said, "I'm never going to be like this guy." And
Yeah.
so my job was to teach, but in those days, you learn by observation. These guys thought it was a secret. They're not going to show you. But I would look, and Will Edgington, that was not a big known cut man, but I watched him wrap hands when I was in kickboxing. But I practiced my own. I'd practice my own hands, wrap my own hands, and get on the bag, and make my adjustments. But yeah, in those days there was no teaching. But I everything that I do now as a cut man, I put it in a little video. Well, not little videos. It has everything, but it's only $50, and that's at stitchduran.com. But it'll show you how to wrap hands for boxing, for MMA, how to use the KO swell, how to use the medications, how to use the Vaseline, why you, all this it's a seminar. It's a $50 seminar. And I didn't do it to make money. I did it so that these guys could watch it and learn. And as a matter of fact, my son that just went back to Michigan today, half the money that comes in goes to him and to my son-in-law. I don't get none of it. That's what they help with the social media, and my son's in the video. So yeah, just giving back, man. It's not about the money, bro.
I
Talking
got
about
two
the
questions
swells,
for you.
real quick.
I
Let me
want to
ask this,
ask you.
BVO. Let me ask this real
Go
quick,
ahead.
BVO. Talking about the swells, right? How they use them, those type of things. I watched Antoine Russell. They use like a
The
mask.
mask.
Yeah, they use a full mask. Like, can you break down the difference between using just the actual plate versus the mask situation? Can you break that down?
Yeah, well, I would think that the mask would just cool the whole face, which is fine, And I use the ice pack. But what I'll do is I'll concentrate on the area of where I could use the ice pack. But yeah, that's fine. But if there is, let's say there is a bulging swelling, then it's going to take more than that because it's with swelling you need cold direct pressure. That's how you what you do is guys in the old days you try to pull that swelling away, But what you're doing is it's accumulation of blood. You're moving it into tissue that's not damaged, and it goes back now. It's a little bit bigger. So the old theory of how many times you cut your hand is you put your finger on it for a minute and blood coagulates itself. So you got to help it in that department. And those are little things like that. That because the guys you see guys doing that because they saw other guys and then they'll press the shit out of it. So sorry. And so yeah, but
Like on
there's
fight night. I know what you're talking about.
there's plenty of guys like that. So
So speaking of that, I want to ask you something before you get out of here, because one thing we got to ask you some serious questions, man, because we know you're gonna get us the truth. Now, having daughters, what do you think about you still hearing so many fighters, committing violence against women? What would you say about these guys who can't control, no names in particular, but what do you think about guys not being able to control themselves and seeing so much violence against women? What would you say about that?
oh no, not at all. I mean, I couldn't even support anything like that. And as a matter of fact, in this documentary that they had on me, I talked about when I was, I think, about 13 years old. My father got into a fight with my mother, and I grabbed him because he was drunk, right? And he came aggressive and all that. And then I tell you, I'm a teenager. I grabbed him and I drug him out of the house and locked him out. And so of course, I think they had to get their ass kicked.
And speaking of that, do you think it's just from the actual fight game where guys are not able to have the skills to what you would call conflict resolution, and all they kind of do is go to their hands? You think that's why we're seeing so much violence against women when it comes to combat sports in general?
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, you're asking me a question that's pretty general worldwide. But when it comes to combat sports, I've never heard of any, outside of Dana White slapping his wife,
Yeah.
and, so, and on TV, and on tape, But outside of that,
Yeah.
I haven't heard too many stories, to be honest with you. But overall, yeah, of course, yeah, any kind of abuse of anybody, and that's the thing about it. We're all equal, bro, all the way around. Nobody's better than anybody else, and that's the thing that bothers me is that there's no equality. But there has to be.
So speaking of that, we
BVO,
got another question from
can
our
I get
brother
in here?
Pierre. Oh yeah, absolutely. Let me just this one question with Pierre, then we're gonna go to my man B3 before we got here. Pierre said, Uncle Stitch, who is on your Mount Rushmore cut man?
Chuck Bodak. Chuck Bodak was the original cut man from. He worked with Oscar De La Hoya. If you remember, he looked like Colonel Sanders. He would put the
Yeah, he
tape of the
did.
fighters. Jorge Paez. I think he might did Chavez. He was the one that welcomed me into Las Vegas to as a cut man, and he opened the doors for me. Matter of fact, when Raul Marquez fought, when he had those 5 cuts, something like 70 stitches, Chuck Bodak's the one that came up to me and says, "Great job." Well, he's in the documentary, right? And then
Mm,
him and I did the movie Play It to the Bone with Woody Harrelson and Antonio Banderas. But he
mm-hmm.
falls up on top. Percy Richardson was another one from the East Coast. These are the guys that, Jake LaMotta. I mean, these guys were the ones I followed, and so yeah, they good question. But Chuck Bodak sits on top of everybody.
Mm. Go ahead, B3. We'll let you finish it out. Go ahead,
Now I
B3.
gotta ask you, with the legend Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao coming back this weekend, what experiences have you had with Manny that you can share with the people, and how you feel about him coming back?
Well, bless his heart, man. He's always been in good shape and all that, and it's a game of economics on this one. We know it, and I know it.
Mm-hmm.
But I worked against Manny with Chris Algieri in Macau, China, and one of the things Manny always wrapped his own hands, right? And but yeah, he's good for him. As long as he don't get hurt, because Body was a pretty tough puncher. And then one of the things I learned from Duncan Dakawari was a heavyweight. His nickname was Time. And he used to say, "You could beat anything, but you can't beat time." So we'll see what happens.
On that note, you got anything else, Duff, for Uncle Stitch?
I mean, I can ask questions all day, respectfully. I say that respectfully, but I want to respect your time. Last question from me. Like you always say, I think you have some of the best stories You know what I mean? And with the experience, I got two. I'm sorry, I got two questions. Before I get to the stories, what was it like to feel? What did it feel like to be inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame for the efforts, the work, the energy you done gave to this sport? You know, what did that feel like to be inducted into the Hall of Fame?
It was a little embarrassing, to be honest with you. I didn't tell nobody for about 3 weeks. I just said, just not me. And I got inducted into the National Boxing Hall of Fame, the Nevada one, and then the WBC about 3 weeks ago. But I didn't go. So yeah, they're okay. But I appreciate it, and the honor and the respect. But that's not why I do it. I do it because I have a passion for this, and But it's nice to be recognized.
Last question from me. Like you always say, you got the best. Give me your best story. Give me your best story that you got from your time in the sport of boxing. I know you got a lot of them, but give me your best one.
Oh man, it's now you really have me dig way, way, way back. Too many of them. But I'll tell you how I got started in this game. And you mentioned Julio Cesar Chavez. So I ran into him about 2 years ago. He was doing commentating, and I was doing a top ranked show. And I go up to him, and in Spanish we're speaking, right? But I told him, I said, "Look, I just want to let you know that the first world title fight that I worked was against you in Monterrey, Mexico, with Tony the Tiger Lopez. And my goal was always to be a professional baseball player." I told him. So when I walked in, there was a Don King card. When I walked into the arena, I felt like the Field of Dreams. So now every time that I see Julio Cesar Chavez at the fights, now he gives me a hug because now there's a relationship. So yeah, we got to sit down, bro, one of these days and just talk
Hey,
more.
I'll buy you a drink. You know what I'm saying, and we'll start chopping it up because man, the extensive and it's beautiful to listen to. It's very beautiful.
Yeah. All right. Hold on. Oh, do you remember Rafael Garcia that used to be with Floyd? Was he a cut man?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I used to love to see him. I used to love to see him with Floyd back in the day.
Yeah, it was great, man. And when so I'll tell you a little story there with Rafael, and his son's a cut man now, but Rafael was a good friend of mine. So there was a time when Floyd was having problems with his hands, and he was going through certain guys wrapping their hands and all that. So I just happened to walk into a top ranked gym at that time, and this one cut man is wrapping his hands, and I'm there with my friend, and I can see from a distance. I said, "Man, it's too tight." Floyd's going like this, and and James Prince was his manager at that time. So he wraps his hands and he goes in the dressing room, and within a minute he's coming back and he's cutting his wraps off. And at that point, I could have said, "Hey, I'll wrap your hands," but out of respect to that cut man, I didn't say nothing. Anyway, days later, Rafael is the one that wrapped Floyd's hands, and he got the assignment. But I was glad for him because Floyd took care of him, and he deserved the respect that he got, and he ended up being his cut man till he passed away. So good man, good man.
Yeah, because I know Floyd loved it because every time Floyd seen him, he had a hug and a kiss for him. So
Yeah,
he definitely was somebody special to him. But
Hold on,
on
real
that
quick,
note,
hold on, real quick, BV. I keep telling you, I got questions for days. Last question for me. Last one. I apologize, but when these fighters, when
don't
they
get
go
mad at
through,
me, Uncle Stitch. It's him.
No, hey
it's
man,
on me. It's on me. It's on me.
hey, as long as my wife don't jump on me, I'm okay.
Shout out to Miss Stitch, man. That's what we gonna call over here, Miss Stitch. Shout out to her. But when it comes to these fighters having hand injuries, those type of things, you know what I'm saying, breaking their hands in fights, is there anything special that you would recommend for them to do to make sure that they protect their hands? Because, I mean, that's their moneymaker. So is there anything special you would say as far as those guys who have those hand injuries?
Well, you guys are good, man. That's why we could do this past my time. But it's all right. No, I don't, no, I don't mind. Hey,
I
listen.
apologize.
Hey,
I
hey,
apologize.
listen.
It's on me.
Listen. No,
Charge it
listen to
charge it to my head. Charge it to my head, not my heart. That's
no,
all I'm
no.
saying.
Listen to me. I call this barbershop talk, bro.
Yeah.
And so I don't mind at all. Shoot, I forgot the question now. So,
As far as individuals who hurt their hands,
oh
you know what I'm
yes,
saying?
yes. So
Go ahead.
Constance Zoo when he was training at Top Rank Gym. I looked at him and he did hand pads and all that. And when he finished, he cut his wraps off, right? And then he started getting on the bag and punching it with just his hands. And I thought, he's crazy. But then I looked at him, and he more like a Russian than anything else. I said, it makes so much sense because it toughens the tendons up and, the contact. But when a lot of guys, when they break their hand or they hurt their hand is when they hit on top of the head and, it comes on this type of angle or they hit an elbow or something like that. And, but yeah, I couldn't tell you what kind of exercise to do. That goes way beyond me.
Oh, on that note,
I'm done.
Nah,
come on, that's one more question, man. I ain't done.
Hey, on that note, what I would say is we love you, man, and I look forward to seeing you at next week at the fights, man. And can't appreciate you more for what you do for boxing, man. And I apologize again for keeping you a little bit long, but we love you, man. We'll see you soon.
All right, no, anytime, guys. Yeah, of course, there's only part one of many.
Hey, and let us know. You got to let us know when the Netflix series the Netflix movie gonna come out. We definitely want to promote it and check it out and make sure that everybody who watches they go check it out as well because I think it's gonna be a hell of a story.
Oh yeah, no. Hey, listen, I watched it and I have to tell you, I mean, it's not because it's my story, but the way they put it together and the results, the reactions of people, it's gonna be pretty badass. So now they're talking about film festivals. So, I'll let them guide it from there. So it's top of the line, man. So
hey, you everywhere out here now. You everywhere.
Hey,
that's a great thing though. That's a great thing. Shout out to you.
All right, my man.
We'll talk to you guys later. Love you, man. Bye-bye.
All right, love you guys. Bye.
So on that note, hold on 1 second. Let me get out of this. So that was a great interview as always, Dub. I love when Uncle Stitch he come talk to us and have a great conversation.
I get out of order. I get out of order fast. I'm out of order. I'm all the way. Look, I done held him man over his time, and he was so respectful and gave us his time and energy, and I hold him over. But
we sorry, Miss Duran. I'm sure Uncle Stitch gonna take you out to eat. I'm sorry. That was Dub right side. I'm sorry about that.
I'm taking the blame for it.
But it's great. It's great. And this is what I tell Dub all the time behind the scenes. That's what we want to do as Sports Talk Network. I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk to him. So when you can have Uncle Stitch over 30-something years of this sport and he still loves it, you can see the shine in his eyes when he talks about teaching and training. We never heard these stories about Vladimir Klitschko saying he loves somebody or call me. You can call me son. We just always see him as a crazy robot fighting in Germany, putting us all to sleep. So I appreciate them stories, man, because it humanizes fighters. It really does. I mean, Dub, I'm not lying. That's what we know Klitschko for, them boring fights in Germany. That's what we know him for.
Hey, Klitschko gonna run it down the middle on you, bro. He gonna run it down the middle on you. That's it. He gonna run it down the middle. Hey, you better figure a way out of that. You better figure a way out.
If not, you're going to sleep.
You're going to sleep. Jab, right hand, running it down the middle.
Hey, and salute to my man Ernest, man. We understand you just got off the Diddy trial. I understand you probably had arms full of baby oil, so you've been saying some funny stuff. Shout out to my man Ernest. My brother Ernest Johnson was talking crazy, man. So shout out to my brother Ernest, man, and congratulations on being acquitted of the charges, man, Ernest. We love you, man. We're glad you're home. And this is just another episode of the Sports Talk Network. I got my man Varnell Hill. It's your boy BVO, and we're gonna be back. Is you coming tonight, Dub, or are you gonna hold out on the people again?
No, I'm live tonight, man. We're gonna review some of this interview, and we're gonna talk about the myriad of things that we can talk about in boxing, man. Hey, you already know how I get down, BVO. And no, I can't use that damn thumbnail that you sent me later. I can't use that. What are we doing? Hold
on. This is a perfectly good thumbnail. I'm gonna put it up for you guys. We gave Dub right side a great thumbnail, but
I wouldn't use it to save my life. I'm just telling y'all.
this is what the thumbnail was. Hold on 1 second, guys. We load it up as we speak. Hold on. Here we go. It was what
Piero,
everybody wants to know.
We'll be live 11:30 as we going back to our regular time, 11:30 Eastern time, man.
And this is what I sent Dub. This is what I sent Dub right side. Cleveland's own Jake Paul, boxing's prodigal son. Is he the next superstar?
And
I
we will
thought that was
never,
a
we
good
will
show.
never, we will never have that thumbnail on the show, bro. We will never have it on the thumb. We will never have it on the show, bro. You out of order. You out of order.
Shout out to my Cleveland brother, man. We got to stick together, man. On that note, thank you to our sponsor. We got great news. We just read up with Raycon. So I want to thank Miss Sally and her team for giving us an opportunity. And we actually got even a bigger opportunity. So I just want to thank you so much for letting us read with Raycon. We're going to redo the commercial and we're going to do some great things. So shout out to Raycon. Shout out to the Smoke Shop. Shout out to the Breakfast Box. And you know what? Shout out to all the Abdul Wahid fans, because I haven't played y'all's drop in a while. Let me see. This is for all the Abdul Wahid fans.
I'm not gay no more. I am delivered. I don't like men no more. I said I like women.
You out of order. You out. Hey, now you out of order.
Shout out to my man Del Rice. I hating on Jake Paul saying he don't want to give the biggest star in boxing no love. And we gone, y'all. Peace.
Peace.